Hello, everyone. Kristen David, and today's Real Talk, I am being joined by Coach Rona, who is what our diversity, equity, and inclusion coach at UIB. Just such an amazing person that I love having on our team. And listen, June is a big month, a lot going on. So Rona and I thought we would jump on and talk about why DEI work is so important to companies, especially right now. There's just so much transition going on in this world. People are choosing where they want to land, what type of culture, what type of business they want to be affiliated with, the type of environment they want to be part of. So, Rona, thank you for joining me today and sharing your tips and tricks.
Hi, Kristen, and everybody out there. Thanks for inviting me on. I think this is a great opportunity to just get the word out and to have everybody kind of meet me in this platform. But yeah, so I'm Rona, and I'm the diversity, equity, and inclusion coach for UIB, and I'm here to talk to all of you about what's going on in the world, and also I'm also here for the team, for the UIB team, whenever we're available, whenever the situation presents itself. But yeah, so we're talking about, I mean, we throw around the term DEI, and we have different acronyms for it, but I kind of wanted to just take a few minutes to break that down, because while
Please.
it is a field in itself, DEI, it's also the diversity, equity, and inclusion broken down are different kinds of things.
Yes.
So, I mean, in general, yes, we talk about DEI at the workplace, and what that refers to are basically, we're talking about policies and practices that are in the workplace, and these are policies and practice that make everybody who works for you, everybody in a company of all different identities, all different backgrounds, feel valued and supported. So that's, in a nutshell, what this whole field is about. It's about creating policies and practices in the workplace. So now the acronym. So diversity is just going to be having different voices, the presence of different people, different voices in the workplace. So the most common: gender, race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation. I mean, even talking about immigration status, physical ability, veteran status. those are all categories and groups that describe diverse people. So that's what we're talking about when we say diversity. Now, the other trifecta, the other part of it, is the equity of it. And equity does not mean equality. Equity would mean kind of the mindset or the mentality to which we're creating these policies and practices and programs to be fair, and to make sure everything is accessible. What a company has to offer is accessible. And one of the examples I like to use to kind of think about what equity means, because it's not it's not a piece of paper, but I think of equity as like, if you have a plant, right, and your plant starts dying, are we just going to treat it like all the other plants, give it the same amount of food, the same amount of sun, like, or do we need to kind of look at the soil and see why this plant is not thriving? Do we need to look at the amount of sunlight that it's getting, or water, or quality water, or food, or fertilizer, or whatever? Those are, the plant, we're not going to throw into a category of everybody needs to be treated the same because they all need the same things. It's how people are at work. What makes them thrive is what the quality of soil is, right? It's different for every plant. So anyways, that's what we're getting into territory of equity. That's harder for organizations to provide access to everybody differently. And then the inclusion part, is ensuring, so it's not just taking the word include and say it just means include everybody. It doesn't mean that. It's ensuring, I mean, it does mean that, but it means so much more. it's creating policies and programs that ensure that everybody is going to feel comfortable, feel supported, feel respected, appreciated in the workplace. So not only is it that, because then we talk about if you've got an outing and you choose golf as your outing, we're going to say, well, we included everybody. We sent them the email and invited them. That's not really what we mean. What we mean is you have rolled out the red carpet and you are welcoming, truly welcoming in everyone in the world, a clear path to join in. So by saying, the decision to choose golf was a non-inclusive decision, right? Why not choose a knitting workshop, right? So it's rolling the red carpet out to allow everybody to feel like they have an opportunity to do something. So, I mean, that was a really long answer for a very short question, but
that's why we're here. That's why, I mean, there's so much to unpack in here, and we could take any of these D, E, or I and literally make it an entire course, right? An entire time. And that's what, when you work with our team members, when you work with clients, this is why I'm so excited that you're here to help business owners, because they often need very pointed examples that relate to their business. And that's what comes to it. But I got to tell you, so someone already posted out on Facebook. It said, great example. This was actually on the plant example about the soil. And you've got to have like that good base soil. And it's not about the light and the water. It's, we've got to dig deeper and figure out what's going on, what's undermining it, what's underneath. I too think that was a great example. But listen, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, there are so many opportunities for business owners to be using this in their business in different ways, from marketing to sales, but especially with their team and attracting in some unique, amazing individuals that they might have overlooked before. But then once they bring them in, helping them feel comfortable, helping them feel part of the team. That's that inclusion part. So I'm going to pepper you with a few questions here to kind of help us flesh this out a little bit more. And I hope our business owners are, tagging this, going ahead and tagging their admins, saying, hey, you need to come watch this, because these are great points of how you can incorporate things into your business. So let's talk about, I just gave a kind of a higher level, but will you share, Rona, why is DEI work so important in a thriving company that wants to grow, for instance? Why is this so important?
Yeah, I mean, aside from my answer of it's just the right thing to do, and it's what 90 to 95% of the people seeking jobs at the moment are looking for in a company. What are businesses interested in? It's number one is going to be an improvement to their employment practices. So first of all, with everyone's talking about hiring, right? We've got a war on talent right now. Implementing DEI principles into your employment practices will, one, widen your talent pool altogether. It will increase and make your employee engagement stronger. It will increase your employee loyalty, which is going to affect your retention. So that's number one, is employment practices. Number two is going to be, DEI work for a company is going to improve your operations and workflow. So we're talking about, this isn't something that I dreamt up. It's bigger companies, the research companies, the Deloitte, the McKinseys that have researched this. It talks about improving innovation and creativity. So diverse teams think better and operate better, when you have a diverse team, you have a wider range of skills that you're pulling from. You're talking about knowledge sharing when you have people on your team that don't think and look and come from exactly the same place you come from. Productivity is another thing that it affects, and it makes your decision making more thorough and more, when you consider more angles, it definitely improves decision making. So that was operations and workflow in a nutshell.
So I want to stop you there.
And
That operations and
yeah,
workflow, though, is like
yeah.
such a, when people feel appreciated and in
Oh,
a
I
safe
know.
place, and they're that innovation, that creativity. This is what I see a lot of our bigger clients, they'll increase their profit margin by 2 or 3% because their team is excited. They're fired up. They love where they are. They love digging in on these projects versus that workflow that is clunky and no one communicates, or the team that just doesn't like being there, right? They're not as productive. So I mean, I just think that is, it gives back in so many ways. I mean, I just think that element alone is just supersonic. Sorry. Okay, I'll let you keep going.
Yeah,
Keep
no,
interrupting.
Kristen, you hit, as you were talking about your list, you hit on so many different things. I mean, you talked about the appreciation and workers feeling, team members feeling appreciated, which is something I think that UYB does really well. And I mean, formally, I mean, my first webinar with UIB, I know that I got a job swell done. The water the water container that was
Yeah.
beautiful that I love. But I had never thought that a workplace would recognize my first effort with them. And so, I mean, there are formal ways, but, I see in our Slack channel how we're we're pinging each other for our birthdays and big, accomplishments in terms of traveling or things like that. So that does make us feel more part of a team when we're recognized. Rewards and recognition is definitely part of the inclusive behaviors part that a company could do. So yeah, and then so the third thing that in terms of why DEI work would be important for a company is what you already said, which is results and returns. And that is diverse teams, inclusive workspaces produce higher revenue, financial performance, their reputations are better, their understanding of their clients and customers are better because it more reflects them. And I mean, business is just boosted altogether. And this is the list that I just, talked about, the employment practices and all that. These are coming from companies that already do it well, and they're already doing it, and this is what they've discovered. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I also have an academic background, so I am one that doesn't like to talk off the top of my head, just making stuff up. It's stuff that I like to know that's proven, researched, and information that's out there. So that's kind of where that list comes from.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. So I do want to touch on the results and returns. Um, I I actually was just in a Facebook group chatting back and forth where there was some discussion about higher revenues and financial performance. And I think I said something like, but that's the byproduct. That's the, yes, it has to be part of the business plan. And I'm always an advocate for business owners. You've got to plan a plan that's going to be profitable, right? Or you don't get to go do it. But you also want to focus. If you just tell your team it's always about higher revenue and financial performance, they tend to only believe that that's what you care about, and that you don't care about them as humans and things. So, I think the DEI work, it ends up giving the result and the return of these higher revenues, but that is a byproduct of it in many of the situations I've seen. So,
Yep.
yeah,
That's exactly right, Kristen. And I like to, so this I have this webinar, and it includes all of the, presenting these ideas. And I have been told time and time again by people out there in business that I should lead, my leading point to this should be about returns and revenue. But I always put it last.
Last.
I
Yeah.
start with, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's what people are looking for in terms of their jobs, because they want to feel engaged. They want to
Yeah.
feel valued. And then I drop that at the end for that reason that you explained. Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, June is Pride Month. We've got so many different Juneteenth. We've got such an evolution that has happened in not just America, but in the world, right? Can you give us a little bit of just like a mini historical? How long has this been a topic for companies? How did this kind of come to be? To put it in perspective a little bit, because I think some of us now talk about DEI work and as if it's been around for a long time, but in a bigger schematic, it really hasn't been that established. Can you just share a little bit about how long this has been an ongoing topic?
Right. So if we were in a live workshop, this is a question I like to throw out to people, because then they go, "How long have
Hmm.
we been talking about DEI work?" And they're like, I mean, not long. I've heard a lot about it since 2020, since the murder of George Floyd. But I mean, I work with DEI professionals that have been doing this for 30 years. But what we used to call it, um, we're talking about the 1960s. We called it the civil rights movement.
Okay.
We talked about gender equality for women. That is elevating the voices
Yeah.
and asking for equal pay, no matter what gender you are. That is all DEI work.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that have been doing this work a long time, and I think just talking about gender equality, I think that um, we have a lot of policies and programs and procedures that have been passed to make gender, equal pay, things like that, laws, right? That I, I, sorry to mention this, but I love the documentary on Netflix, 9 to 5. I don't know if it's on Netflix. It's on one of those, but it talks about the struggle for respect and equal pay for women in the workplace, and that is one of our earliest memories of DEI work. Of course, civil rights and race equality. But now what do we have in front of us now? We have gender identity. We have physical disabilities. Are we treating our workers with mental and physical disabilities the same as everyone else? Is our application and interview process, does that leave the door wide open for them? That's all within the umbrella of DEI work. So we've been doing it a long time.
Well, there's a lot to go still, but I do see the definite evolution, right? And that's part of the nature of of the world is change, and we evolve, we different events highlight and bring things to a point. And I just think as business owners, it's so important to be that voice of change and to question the past and question how we're going to do things in the future, and to support and be open to the innovations of the teams, and how they can do things better and find better circumstances, better situations. Um,
Mhm.
so listen, I know that we could do a whole live stream just on like all the acronyms that are out there. So I'm not going to dive into those. I mean, listen, anybody out there watching and listening that wants to get on with Rona and like talk about acronyms and get clarity on what they're supposed to be. There's DNI, DEI. Um, I don't know, all different ways it's been jumbled around, right? I you know it I think, what did you say once? It depends on a company's vision and how they're going to use it, or something like that.
Yeah, right. So I know people are out there going, I've heard companies use DEIB for the B for belonging. I've heard
Yeah.
companies use DEIA. A for accessibility. IDEA. Some companies want to put the inclusion part of it first. Some companies are Jedi's. Justice. The J is for justice, and then the equity, and then the diversity, and then the
Yeah.
inclusion. And really, so it's like companies have to be intentional about what they're putting first, what they're prioritizing, and what they're faced with at the moment, right? What they're working on. So the accessibility, the A is another common piece, but it's not a one size fits all. It's everyone has to look at what their vision and mission are, what their core values and where they're going in the next 5 years, and just choose a acronym that fits for them.
Good. Good. Okay, so I want to jump us to some hands-on, reality-based. This is kind of real talk. What are some important things that you think businesses can do? Some examples of inclusive behavior, things they can do in their organization that are just biz nuggets that probably business owners, admins need to hear about, like some things they can start doing or recognizing to start making a difference in their business. I want to kind of get gritty with this.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you've heard the term or the saying that people quit their bosses, not their company. And this kind of goes along with the idea that somebody's experience at a company is based on three levels of things. I mean, this is what the DEI world has figured out is it's either one, it's going to be their experience with the organization or senior management, or their experience with their immediate supervisor, who they're at the mercy of, who they work with every day, or their work group, what's going on the ground on their team every day. So in terms of, let's just say the organization, right? Does this, I mean, I used to work in higher ed also, and does this organization make managers accountable? Do they hold them accountable? Or, the issue in higher ed is if you have tenure and then you're given a staff position, you
Have carte blanche.
yeah. So what kind of a system does that create? It creates, so does your organization support that, or does support a manager that is displaying non-inclusive behaviors, or do they hold them accountable? Does the organization have something stated in their mission and vision or their DEI statement that they're not doing? So they are decisions based on their stated values? Are they doing what they say they're going to do? Which is hard, right? Do the leaders themselves foster inclusion, right? Or is that just something, they're up there saying, hey, you all go do this. In terms of also from the top, are they walking the talk? Are they doing all of that? Do they actively seek the feedback of how their company is doing, right? Do they talk about it? Do they have forums? In terms of their immediate supervisor, it's kind of like who you're at the mercy of every day. Is there a safe space for people to give feedback? Does your immediate supervisor engage in any kind of conversation? And I also facilitate these DEI courses for Cornell University, and we talk about leaders that do not have authentic conversations. They're like, hi, how are you doing? But like, do they know what's going on with you? And stuff, they're like, no, it's not, some people say, oh, it's like a checkbox. Some people say they don't really know what I'm going through. And, this was more common, a more common conversation during COVID, I think. Does your immediate supervisor always act like they have all the answers, right? Or do they are they vulnerable and say, I actually don't know this, can you help? Or yeah, so there's a lot of things on that immediate supervisor level that are considered inclusive, make employees feel valued and seen. Our work groups, the norms that our work groups are, we have an expectation to treat each other with respect and to be open to listening. But like, are things that happen within our work group, are they fair? The promotion process, the performance reviews, is that all done fairly? Is there a safe space there, again? And this is a common thing at all levels, right? To voice grievances. Are there norms around listening for understanding, or do we just are we just talking and nobody's listening?
I keep smiling because I actually just had a conversation with an admin just a couple days ago. I guess it was end of last week, and she was like, Kristen, part of this is the owner says that, oh, we're so inclusive and we're so whatever, but there is no feedback loops. There's no, like, it just is, the words are spoken, but it falls flat. And everybody in the company knows it kind of falls flat. And she's like, what do we do? Like, how are we going to get there? And I said, well, step by step. It doesn't happen. Change doesn't happen overnight. But she was the most, she's the right-hand person. I said, you're one of the ones that needs to speak up and say something and start this conversation. And, we've got some other work we've got to do first, but it came out in the conversation that, there really has to be that involvement where there's authentic conversations and they mean it. It's not just like, oh yes, of course we have a feedback loop. Of course we have an opportunity for people to voice their situations or whatever. And it doesn't work well when it doesn't actually have that in place. So I think business owners have so much opportunity to help and to bring DEI to the forefront, to the conversation. I think the team members have an opportunity to bring it, raise these questions. This is where I'm so glad that you're working with clients and business owners and us, so that we're constantly learning and evolving. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you were talking about that. I was just thinking about this client that I just had this conversation with. So it's real. It's real.
Yeah. No, I can go on and on and on, and we only have a limited amount of time. So let's go on to the next one.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to jump to the end. Can you give us a couple of examples of, because we'll wrap it up pretty soon, but a couple examples of how DEI principles or ideas can be applied to a workplace or business environment and create a system that way. Let's talk HR, marketing, and like the organizational level. Give us some examples of how can they start to put some of these things in place.
All right. HR, marketing, and organizational level. So in terms of HR is in charge of, they are involved in hiring, and that whole process. Let's just take that. If you've got job descriptions that you're writing, are they, HR inclusive practices, or looking at those job descriptions that you are the job postings that describe the job in the company, and are those using inclusive language? Meaning, is the language gendered, right, in any way? If it is gendered in any way, okay, this doesn't seem fair, but there is a study out there that talks about how if a job description, if a job posting has any male gendered language in it, then X% of women will not apply for that, whereas 100% of men will if it is gendered. So, and we, you know what, there's a magic little website that you can copy and paste your job posting into, and it'll, boom, it'll show you the terms that
Ooh,
are gendered,
yeah,
and what you know, how you can say things better. Because how you describe a job is like marketing, right? It's, you
yeah,
want these people to
yeah,
come work for you. And yeah, so having the language looked at. Also, where are you posting those things? Are they just in LinkedIn and Indeed, or are we posting them on where diverse candidates, like you say you want diverse candidates, yet you're not posting where diverse
yeah.
candidates look for those jobs in a way that is accessible to everyone. I mean, just, you know, I can go on and on about that process. The interview process, is that interview accessible, truly accessible to candidates? So, you know, looking at, um, it's what I explained in the beginning about inclusion, is like not just saying, well, everyone can see I posted it on LinkedIn and Indeed, but it really, what it is inclusion is rolling the red carpet out and making that
Yeah.
available to everybody. Also, you know, like talking about workers, employees, team members that have invisible disabilities, do they have resources upon onboarding? I mean, because you know, people aren't going to disclose that right away, right? So are those pieces available to everybody? And then can they go back and access those resources? Though that's just, I mean, part of just a small window into HR piece of how this kind of work can pertain to that. Your
But
marketing.
I love it, and I just gotta say, like, I used to use the term rock star to define, I mean, to in my mind, it's like a superstar. It's a somebody who sees themselves as fabulous, and we I got told that that is a gender term that is getting nicked by Wise Hire and LinkedIn and all these different
Mhm.
ones, which, I'm just trying to describe somebody who's
Right.
like just bigger than life and wants to jump in and get going on the project type of thing. And it's funny how we all have different perspectives on words based on our upbringing and where we came from. And I don't think of male rockers only for rock, the term rock star,
Right.
but right. I mean, it's funny how those little things can, on Wise Hire, we posted and it got nicked. So it's like, okay, can't use
Yeah.
that term anymore. So yeah, the
Yeah.
things we learn.
But yeah, and it is the, you know, the intentional and the unintentional,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you know, you didn't intend for that to land that way,
yeah,
but it does land, you know, a certain way, and I get it. And but it also doesn't have anything to do with what that job is,
yeah,
right? Like, for example, the word competitive. So it is, you are, even if that job is going to land you in a competitive environment, it's still a gendered word that is going to turn a certain population off to think that they're going to belong there,
yeah,
even though they are competitive in nature, and that job is going to be, you know what I mean? It's just how that
yeah,
landed.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so
Awesome.
I mean, that's
Okay,
just an,
so let's move on to some marketing DEI tips.
yeah, so I mean, just looking at the packaging that a company puts out, has anybody looked at the examples of people that are being that are out there, right? Like I said, 90 to 95% of the people seeking jobs at the moment are pulling up company websites and going, "Do I belong there? Do I see
Mhm.
myself there?" So, you know, website is one thing. Is your website accessible visually, right? If you have dyslexia or ADHD, what you see on the page, say, um, italics. Italic words are going to be very difficult for somebody with, right? Are we making them work really hard to access the information on your website? So that is a inclusive marketing thing, right? Are there, if you have packages or whatever that you're sending out to people, are different races, genders, religions, abilities, are all those being represented in there? Um, Right. So yeah, that's just a piece of the marketing piece. And then on the organizational level, like companies, right? And like I said, job seekers are trying to pull up your DEI statement and seeing what it says. Do I feel seen there? Or will I? Do they have one up? Does your company have an employee resource group? Is DEI mentioned in mission and values? So that's kind of what a company can do. And some companies will publish their climate surveys, and I mean that's all like Glassdoor, like their
Yeah.
reviews and
Yeah.
right what's written about a company. So that's what a company could do on their level.
Well, and I love that. I mean, you've been able to get in for us, for example, and help us rework the DEI statement. And I am so passionate about this area. It's like my soapbox to get on, because I grew up in a rural area and I was fortunate in getting to be able to travel with my mother, who was a small business owner, and would go down to San Francisco and up to Seattle, and I got to see places that many don't. And at a young age, got to experience so many different ways of life. It wasn't just here. And living in Europe as an exchange student in France, and just even though I came back to this little hometown, right? I was able to see that there's so much more out there, and that we really should take on and experience and get the perspectives of all these other individuals, because a single perspective is never just a good way. Like, you want to bring other people into it. So you've done an extraordinary job helping us with our DEI statement and helping give us feedback. And I love that that you're now doing this for clients and getting with clients on these issues. And for any business owner out there or admin that wants to get working on this, DM me, send me a message, a direct message, and or an email, and we'll get you situated with Coach Rona, because it's important to be one-on-one with things like this. It's really important, I think, to take the time to dig in. What does it mean to each person, and how does that tie in? And that was what you did with us as well. So anyways, super excited about all of those. So Rona, I know we've been going for a while. I promised that we would wrap up not too long. What would be one last kind of tip for business owners of, they know they want to do something, but they don't really know where to get started? What would you suggest for them?
Yeah, I think it's never too late. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that like, I don't even know where to start. And it's all right. Like, I'm willing to bet that you're already doing something, right? So let's talk about your existing goals. What does your mission and vision look like? And it's okay to say that our goals are evolving, right? That we're a work in progress. We're thinking about it. So, where can you start is we can start talking about and drafting a DEI statement. And a DEI statement it's just a commitment to what you want to do, and what you think you can do. And it doesn't have to be, we're not going to etch it in stone. It's going to be something that we can revisit after we see how the year has gone. Yeah, so just getting started. That's part of the 4-session DEI Academy, is talking about a statement. What are you going to do about it? An action plan, a little bit of marketing, and a little bit of HR.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing just some of these elements, getting people thinking about what they can do in their business. And um, I just, I could sit here for hours and talk about it, but I'm glad that we were able to break down some little bite-sized nuggets and help some business owners think through what they want to do and get them started on the journey. So
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks for helping me get the word out.
awesome. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good,
Bye.
productive rest of your week. All right. Bye.